love to dabble in the sports gambling stuff. But it's more than just sports gambling. It's an indicator from odds makers who are just flat out experts at what they do and who they forecast you to be in the football season. So it's not necessarily like just about betting on someone's over-under win total. It's I think you learn a lot from a day like today.
Yeah, you told me not too long ago, hey, Phil, you need to set up an account. So I set up an account at DraftKings to dibble-dabble like you said to do. And they still have me blacklisted, so I don't get to gamble, so I don't get to have a little bit of fun, man. But I still look at it, dibble-dabble with it. I just don't get to bet anything anymore.
Yeah, we got to get that figured out because it has Phil, if you hadn't heard that conversation before, it has Phil blocked because it says he's still a professional athlete. So you got to input your information, and that kind of goes to show you like they have those, things in place to try to do what they can to prevent pro athletes from gambling on their own sport. We know that it still happens. We know that it still happens anyway through whether it's family members or this or that, or then just off the grid stuff with people who do this still under the table with a guy like Jonte Porter, right? That was a crazy story.
There's always going to be a way if you want to gamble.
Yeah,
as an athlete. So. But yeah, I'm not allowed to gamble right now, Zach. So we need to do something about that.
Yeah, we need to get that lifted. So let's talk about this. ESPN Bet released the odds for the 2025 win totals today. This is over, under, okay? And just to explain this, I know a lot of people understand the references, but just to be inclusive, because it's still, in big picture, is relatively new here. All right, so a team like, let's talk about your former team, the Colts. The Indianapolis Colts have an over-under win total of 6.5, all right? You're mostly going to see a number with what's called a hook on the end of it, that half, that 6.5. They won't just put it at 6 because the Colts could win 6 games. And then no one's going to get any money.
Yeah.
The person who bet is not going to get money. The gambling outlet is not going to get any money. That's what's called a push. So they put the hook on it, the half game on it, because this ensures someone is going to win and someone is going to lose. So with the Colts example of a win total of 6.5, if the Colts won 7 games, the over hit. If the Colts won 6 games, the under hit. All right, so that's the premise here. The Denver Broncos, for the 2025 season, have a win total of 9.5. 9.5.
Okay, so they're giving us a little bit more respect now. Last year, the win total was at 5.5.
Bingo.
Now you're talking about us winning 9 games, having a winning season, having a chance to be in the playoffs this year. Now, do I think that it should be higher? It could be, but as long as the odds makers have us up in the mix with at least winning 9 games or more, that's good. That's a good sign, and it's a great sign for George. It's a great sign for Sean. It's a great sign for the fans saying we're going to have a winning season if everybody can stay healthy and continue to move forward this year.
Yeah, and I'm glad you said what you said a second ago. You said, could it be higher? Yeah, I think it could. The tricky thing is with this world. If you said, okay, let's go higher, put it at 10. But remember, they're not going to put it at 10. It's got to have a half on the end of it.
Now it's 10.5.
Now it's 10.5. And that's probably just too high, considering that you're trying, when they set these numbers, they're trying to make it as even as possible. So people are betting both sides of it. And if people bet both sides of it, these outlets are ultimately going to be the real winners here. So I understand why it is where it is. Even though you could make an argument that the Broncos should have a higher number.
Well, you could, but also the Broncos won 10 games this year. They didn't win 11. They did not win 12. And this is the first year of us having a winning season since 2015. So for us to even be talked about as 9.5.
Agreed.
Right? You can bet the over and under on 9.5. That's a great sign, and I'll take it.
Yeah,
I'm not going to accept it, but I'll take it because in the end, we're moving in the right direction. I accept more. I'm expecting more out of the Denver Broncos.
Okay, so if you were going to bet, and you're not much of a sports gambler, but if you were going to bet,
not yet.
You would
not yet. They won't let me.
Someone says, "Don't do it, Phil. Stay pure." Betting changes the way you watch sports. That may be true for some people. here's what I will say about sports betting. Like anything, do it in moderation. If you do anything too much, and I don't care if it's like if you are, oh my gosh. No, I'm not going to get carried away with examples. But like, hey, you can have drinks, but there's a line where it's too much.
Yeah, there's a limit.
You can maybe have a cigar, but there might be a line where it's too much.
Well, look, don't worry, guys. All right, I watch Zach in here. We have a TV. When things don't go his way, he starts throwing stuff. I'm under the table. I'm shaking. I'm like, yo, what's going on with Zach? He's mad. He's upset. A good day, you know, when his bets are hitting, you know, he's smiling, having a good talk with me. So I know when Zach's having a good day or not now.
That's too funny. So Broncos win total of 9.5. All right. If I were to bet this, I also would take the over. But I understand why it is where it is. But what's interesting is, and I don't want to get too carried away and confuse people, but they'll set the win total, but they'll also make it different odds for each bet. So, and I'm bringing this up for a reason, that the over is, if you wanted to bet the over, it's plus 105. So a $100 bet on the over, if it hit, you would win $105. So you're winning more than you're actually gambling. On the other way, if you bet the under, according to ESPN Bet, released today, the under is minus 135, meaning if you wanted to win $100, you have to bet $135. Why am I saying this? Because the experts are telling you the more likely result is the Broncos to go under this number. So they're not necessarily expecting the Denver Broncos to win 10 games in 2025 the way that they did this past year.
Yeah, but look, they didn't expect us the past year to win 10 games. They had us at 5.5. So this is where it's like you have to go with your gut. And I'm going with my gut and what I'm seeing on a daily basis with the Denver Broncos and what they're doing in free agency, what they're going to do in the draft. And what is leading for me to believe is we're going to win 10 games. Maybe we even win our 11 or 12 this year if things go our way and we can stay healthy. So I'm going to bet the over if it's me because I have all the faith in Bo Nix, Sean Payton, and George in the draft, Sean as a coach, and Bo on that football field to make things right for us and to win those tough games, to be able to win the games that we didn't win last year, to beat teams with a winning record, to be able to maintain the same momentum week 1 to week 16, week 17. That's what I'm looking for, and I believe that can happen this year because of the talent that we're bringing in free agency-wise and in the draft.
Well, I think I find myself agreeing with you because – you know, I'm seeing someone else on the RamosLaw.com text line, 303-713-1043. If you want to get involved in this conversation, it says you could argue that the Broncos could have less of a win total. And I don't know. I don't agree with that. The Broncos, on paper, the game's played on grass.
Yeah, on paper.
But on paper, the Broncos should be a better roster year over year. But also, what I think this is signaling, this over-under win total of 9.5 that came out today from ESPN Bet, it's that also things have changed around you. Like, we have a tendency to just look at the Denver Broncos like in a vacuum, but we also have to acknowledge the Raiders believe they got better. The Chargers believe they got better. And the Chiefs lost one stinking regular season game before the Broncos beat them the final week of the year. Like, they're going to stay, you know, I don't know if they'll be the same juggernaut.
Like the Chiefs are the Chiefs. As long as they have Patrick Mahomes, Andy Reid, and you have Travis Kelce, you're always going to have a chance to win a lot of games. The Kansas City Chiefs went to 3 Super Bowls in a row. They were going to be the first team to three-peat. So you have to put respect on the Kansas City Chiefs' names. Although you give them the respect, you also know what's going on here in Denver. We're growing. We're getting better. We're young and hungry. You start to add a couple of additions to the team, like the inside linebacker Greenlaw, like the safety Hufanga, right? little things like that are not little. They're huge because they're veterans that have won a lot of games, have been in big-time games, have been in Super Bowls that can help you get over the top, that can help you beat people like the Kansas City Chiefs. So you still, respect the Kansas City Chiefs and what they're doing because they're going to win games. But also, we have something special here that we're building on.
Well, I agree. And I'll say this about Kansas City before we talk about the other win totals within the division here. You look at the games the Chiefs won this past year. There is so many one-score games. I mean, it's really incredible. You look at their schedule, the amount of one-score games. I don't know if it flirted with an NFL record or not, but it's like a one-possession win over Baltimore, a 1-point win over Cincinnati, a 5-point win over Atlanta, a one-possession win over the Chargers, a one-possession win over the Raiders, one-possession win over the Bucs, a 2-point win over the Broncos, a one-possession, a field goal game against the Panthers.
It's a lot of luck. It's a lot of football luck for you now.
A 2-point win against the Raiders, a 2-point win against the Chargers. I mean, it's really incredible. And typically, now maybe they will buck the trend, and if anyone will, Kansas City will, but typically, like year over year, you don't catch those same green lights. And I remember it was like the Minnesota Vikings. I think they won like 9 one-score games year over year. This is a few years back, I think Cousins' first year. And then it sort of evens out over time. So despite Kansas City's record being insanely gaudy at 15-2, I, like you, I think, and like Sean, according to his season-ending press conference, don't believe there's this huge gap between the Broncos and Kansas City that there used to be.
No, there's not a huge gap. But it's about who can make less mistakes, who can come up with a better game plan in certain situations, on certain downs. We did a great job when we went to Arrowhead, when Bo Nix had that game-winning drive, because I'm going to call it a game-winning drive because Bo Nix did everything he could to help us win that game before Forsythe decided to get ran over.
Yeah.
And the field goal was blocked. But their game-winning drive, that was a great setup play to Courtland Sutton to keep the chains moving on third down, Zach. And so it's like those moments right there. Can you put together more moments like that? Can you get a run game going to where now you have those one-on-one opportunities on the outside so you can take more shots? When we had opportunities to take shots in the Kansas City Chiefs games, we were able to do it. The first game against the Kansas City Chiefs in Arrowhead, Courtland Sutton had a great release and had a touchdown, a bomb,
yes.
A beautiful pass from Bo Nix for a touchdown.
Down the left side. Yep.
That can happen more when you have more pieces. We have more pieces, and we'll continue to add more pieces to this offense and defense because we have the draft picks now. That's what it's all about. It's just growing, getting better. This is a young team that's maturing, and you're adding more weapons to it.
If you're just joining us and didn't hear the start, ESPN Bet released their over-under win totals for the NFL season. We will likely do this again in a few months because you'll be getting some adjustments on these win totals after the draft. Some of these teams have win totals on them that we don't know if they're going to have a rookie quarterback or not. So this could change here over the next couple months. So my guess is we'll revisit this in 2 to 3 months. When looking at the rest of the division, looking at some of the win totals, where do the Broncos stack up? We already told you their win total has been set at 9.5, but it's quote-unquote juiced to the under, meaning that the under, according to Vegas right now and ESPN Bet, the under 9.5 is more likely to hit than the over. So think, 8-9 wins as opposed to 10-11 wins. Again, just according to the forecast. The rest of the division has the Chiefs with the highest win total in the NFL at 11.5, along with Buffalo and Baltimore. Yep. Those 3 teams have the highest win totals.
They win every year.
We would expect that to be the case.
They're very consistent.
They are. So it's Kansas City at 11.5. The Chargers at 10.5. So the Chargers have a better win total than the Denver Broncos, and their number is actually juiced to the over, meaning that the experts, the odds makers, believe that the Chargers are going to be closer to an 11-win team than a 10-win team, and then the Broncos come up behind the Chargers, and the Raiders have a really low win total. This actually kind of surprised me, considering it did because the presence of a veteran quarterback
Yeah.
and a competent coach in Pete Carroll.
But the first year for both of them, both
Sure.
Geno Smith being the quarterback for the Raiders now and Pete Carroll.
Kind of, though.
Kinda?
Because they've worked together in the past.
for
There's
sure,
some
for sure.
continuity.
But it's not with the Seattle Seahawks now. Now it's with the Raiders, with different players, different mindsets. You're gonna have to try to get some of these men to buy in. Whereas in Seattle, it was kind of like, you guys know the rules, you guys know the routine. Let's just go at it. I think the Raiders are going to be tougher than what people are giving them credit for because of Pete Carroll, because of having Geno Smith, and you still have Crosby on the other side, the defense,
Right.
defensive menace over there.
Brock Bowers.
Yeah. Like, they're going to be tough. So
Their win total's 5.5.
I don't see that. I could see them at least 7 or 8 games.
So
Zach.
literally, you said you plucked a thought from my head. If you were to ask me what I thought their win total was going to be 4 hours ago before this was posted, I would have said 7.5. I would have had probably this exact order too, but not necessarily some of the nuances in there.
So are you okay with the Chargers being in front of the Broncos, though? The Chargers are supposed to have at least 10 wins this year or more. The over. So some people are hitting the over, so like 11 wins.
I mean, honestly, I think these two teams are really close, but I don't have enough ammunition to tell you why the Broncos belong legitimately in front of the Chargers when the Chargers finished with more wins and beat the Denver Broncos twice.
I agree on that to a certain extent, Zach. I have the Broncos over the Chargers, and here's why. Chargers wanted a tight end that we got, Evan Ingram. The Chargers were trying hard to get Evan Ingram. Why? Because he's that piece that you need, that tight end that can stretch the field. Well, now we have him in the building. We have that tight end, a tight end that we didn't have on the roster. We're going to go and get a running back now. The Chargers had a running back last year. We did not. Now, if you add a running back that we both believe, no matter who it is going to have success with Sean Payton, because Sean Payton's going to be picking the running back that best fits his offense. If he can do his part as a running back, you have the tight end, you bring in Cortland and maybe another receiver to help him out. You have a really good team on the offensive side of the football. Now you start to think about the defense. The defense was top 5 last year, at least top 7, let's just say. You add Greenlaw, inside linebacker, great veteran presence. You add Hufanga, safety, a great veteran presence. You kept DJ Jones right there, anchor in the middle. You still have Zach Allen and John Franklin Myers. You got Nick Bonito that wants that contract, so he's going to be hungry if he doesn't get it.
Yeah, we're going to talk about that in a second here.
Jay Coop got paid this year. They're all together, and you cannot forget about the Defensive Player of the Year, Pat Surtain. He is back in the mix. And so you have your defense pretty much together and more. You added more pieces, and you still have 7 picks in the draft to add some depth pieces, and you still have your defensive coordinator that's still with you for a 3rd year. I believe that the Denver Broncos are going to beat the Chargers this year. I know they could split hairs 1-1, but I have the Denver Broncos over the Chargers because of that. We got better this offseason because of the free agency so far. I believe that we're over the Chargers.
And that's enough to swing it.
That's enough to swing it.
We will see. We will see. I like your argument. It makes sense. I don't. Some of those guys are still they're ifs.
Yeah.
Right. It's just a lot of ifs. And of course, I mean, I want to agree with you. I just, like, if I'm arguing in court, I don't know if I have enough to supplant them there. But this is going to be tight. I mean, it's going to be tight.
And I'm expecting Sean to step up. I'm expected to see the best version of Sean this year. And I think the best version of Sean is better than Harbaugh. Truly. I do. I think when it comes to game planning, when it comes to putting Bo in better situations, Sean is going to do that. Harbaugh, he's going to rely on the run game, his offensive line. Well, we have offensive line. If we can get a run game to go with Bo Nix and Sean being more creative and opening up the playbook, I believe that that's when we're going to see a different Sean Payton, a different Bo Nix, and we're going to beat the Chargers because of that.
I love it. I absolutely love it, and I could absolutely see that happening. For right now, it's just a little too much of a forecast.
Yeah.
But in my gut, I find myself agreeing with you.
Roll the dice.
I just
roll the dice, baby.
I just here on the RumbleSlaw.com text line, like only they can do. Really, Zach? How did the Broncos season end compared to the Chargers? Chargers were effing awful.
Well, both pooped the bed.
Please open your eyes and stop drinking bong water.
Damn.
Yeah, I don't. Funny crack at the end there, but I don't know where you're coming from. What do you mean, how did the season end? The Chargers beat the Broncos down the stretch when the Broncos could have locked in a playoff spot.
Thursday night.
Right.
Sean's fault, right?
Chargers won their last 3 games of the season. One of them was against the Broncos, and they both got blown out in the playoffs. So, I don't necessarily that's not computing. And they beat the Broncos twice. It wasn't just at the end of the season. It was earlier in the season. So, but again, they're right there, Phil. Because I agree. They're right there.
But it comes down when you're so close, who is going to be the healthier team down the stretch? Who can stay healthy? Whose quarterbacks can stay healthy? Whose quarterbacks make the least amount of mistakes?
Yeah.
Herbert was able to do that in the regular season, not make a lot of mistakes. Bo started off shaky. That hurt you. But then you get to the playoffs, Bo did a better job. Herbert pooped the bed. He really did. Four interceptions in the playoffs.
Yeah, more than he had all year, or as many as he had all year.
Crazy.
It is crazy. You know what signing I actually don't like for the Broncos? That I was told by so many in Broncos country how bad this guy is, and you don't pay him. I have a weird feeling that Najee Harris signing is going to come up to bite the Broncos in the butt.
You like that signing for them, for the Chargers?
Yeah, for them, not for the rest of the division. Because there's one thing. You talk about like knowing your identity and leaning into it.
Yeah.
Dude, Harbaugh's going to run that ball. He's going to run it. He's going to run it, and that's what they did in Pittsburgh. And Najee Harris, while I'm not saying he's God's gift, he has never not had a 1,000-yard season. And if you match it up with an identity like Jim Harbaugh's,
it's a good fit.
Let's just slow down with like this guy sucks. I'm like, he's averaging 4 yards a carry over the last 4 years.
No, he's not a bad running back. He's a solid running back.
He's never missed a game as well. So
big bruiser.
He is. What did you make about we got a little report today from Chris Thomason of the Denver Gazette saying that a source has told him that there will be no contract extensions done for the Denver Broncos until after the draft. If you're someone like Courtland Sutton or you're someone like Zach Allen, when you get that report, do you think from a player perspective it's like, why? Or do you understand it and say,
no, you
okay,
don't understand it. You don't care, Zach. Like, what does that have to do with me? You drafted a young player that might be a replacement for me. That's why we're trying to get this deal done anyway. Why am I going to wait and be okay with you guys getting the draft done first? Like, get my contract taken care of because I've been here the longest, because I want it done, and I want to be on that football field when OTAs start. I don't want this trickling down and I'm missing OTAs and maybe camp because we can't get something done.
Right.
Let's get it done right now as a player. Now for the staff, for Sean, for George, maybe it's like, hey, there's a player out there that we like more than, let's just say, Courtland Sutton. And if we can get him, we would be okay with either trading Court or forcing him to play on his last year of his contract. But if we don't get him, we will be okay with paying him. But let's try to get this man in the draft before we pay Courtland. That's what they're thinking.
That's what he's thinking, yeah.
Yeah, but for Court, I'm pressing it. Full court press, Zach.
What does that look like?
Calling every day, threatening them that, hey, I will sit out like I did last year. I will do it again. I am not playing with you guys, especially if you said that you were going to take care of me after having the year I did. I'm pushing the issue. I might go ahead and put another tweet out there.
Oh, you're going to remove your social media
I'm gonna
connection?
remove it. Put the Will Smith. Start looking around. All right, boys. I'm out.
Yeah, that was interesting. That no contract extensions until after the draft. And that relates to Sutton. That relates to Nick Bonito. That relates to Zach Allen. That relates to John Franklin Myers. That relates to Malcolm Roach.
The whole damn team.
Yeah, well, it's a handful of them. And not everyone's going to get extended.
Nope.
Not everyone's going to get extended. So we will keep our eye on that situation. You want to react to any of these conversations?